Thank you, Fran. And Joan, you have something to share on the same question?
I'd like to answer something.
Oh, there's Ellen.
All these other residents came here with a husband. I didn't. I came here alone. My husband had died a few months before, and I came alone. And I cannot tell you how quickly I made friends. Like the elevator story that someone else told, it was just immediately. I didn't have to worry about, am I going to make friends? What am I going to make friends? I was alone. I didn't know a soul here. Within a few days, I had friends. I went to museums. I went to theater. It was just wonderful. No problem at all.
And Joan, did you have something to add?
Yes, I think what I'm going to piggyback on what Fran said about the Tuttle Center. You certainly do not know what is going to happen in your life. And when all of our friends said, "Why are you leaving?" I just felt like I knew it was time. You know, if we waited too long, you never know what's going to happen. And so as it happens, a couple of years after we got here, my husband also needed the Tuttle Center. But we were able to have dinner together in independent living every night. We had lunch together almost every day. We saw one another all day long. And every night when I said goodnight to him in the Tuttle Center, he'd say, "Now you don't have a trip, isn't it lucky? You just have to get on the elevator and you'll be in the apartment and I'm not going to worry about you." Because for all the years that we were married and I was going off to nighttime meetings, he stayed up to make sure I got home. He didn't have to worry about that here. So even though it was the other way around and I was the one taking care of him to some degree, he still worried about me, but he didn't have to here. And the people in the Tuttle Center were so wonderful. I just can't possibly say how good it was to have him cared for by those people.
Thank you, ladies. Next question. What number of residents elect to leave after a short time? And what is the most common reason or reasons for their deciding to departure? I have an answer, but I want to see what the four of you will say.
I can't imagine why.
I can't.
I love it.
I would like to say something about that. I think that sometimes it's attitude. People don't give it a chance. You have to accept change. There are a lot of people who find it difficult to accept change. And so they don't allow that change. There are also people in this world who will be unhappy wherever they are. So it doesn't really matter. You know, you have to accept that also.
And Rhoda?
I just want to add that there have been very few people out of the hundreds of people who have lived here happily and with great satisfaction. There have been just a very few who have left. And as Joan said, some people just find it difficult to adjust or aren't happy unless they're unhappy.
I can recall a lovely couple that was here. They had two small dogs. They're actually one of our brochures. Mrs. actually was involved in some of the exercise classes. And anyway, they left, they wanted Manhattan and they left and went to Manhattan, but they were here quite a few years and then they left. And to be honest with you, I think they'll be back. And the other person that I remember leaving was a lady that moved to Washington, D.C. to be near her daughter. So sometimes there's a move like that, but too often even with those, once folks get settled, But to know that you can leave at any time for any reason, you just have a 60-day financial responsibility. You can leave immediately, but in our residency agreement, you'll be responsible for 60 days. But I kid around with folks. It's not a life sentence. We don't want it to be that way. If someone's not happy here, I agree with the residents. For the most part, we don't want them here. So why would they stay? But it is very few and far between. I would know that from my position here, and Rhoda and Jim, of course, from the board and all of that. We're very fortunate. I think we work very hard, and I think the residents would agree that we work very hard to acclimate folks to the community, and it's a difficult time. I say folks don't come running through the front door with their hands up doing jumping jacks, saying they've always wanted to live at the Amsterdam. But all too often, they come to us 3 weeks later and grab us by the arm and say, why didn't you tell me to do this sooner? And we've been courting people for a long period of time. But really, that is not an issue here. And Rhoda, you have something to add.
I just wanted to add that I think many of us know of people who moved to be near their children in another state somewhere, only to find that after a few years, the children had to move. So that's not a guarantee.
It happens all the time, and we have those discussions with prospective residents. I have a new question popped up here. We have never lived in an apartment building. What can help ease the transition from a large private home environment to a relatively small quarters?
Okay. Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have never, my husband and I never, ever lived in an apartment building. We've always lived in a house. But after a while, you realize the house is a bit much. The house gets old, we get older, things need repair, we need repair. And moving to an apartment is really, if you ever wanted to be a princess, like this is the time, no responsibility. Something happens, the plumbing, the electric, who cares? You call the super, we call the concierge. I mean, it's like a no-brainer. It's really a load off your shoulders. And this is the time when you should be enjoying yourself and doing the things that you like to do. And an apartment is one of those things. And it's really within a week, you get used to it and it's not a problem. And there are neighbors, there are people, it's social. It's just a good place to be. Whereas in a house, your neighbors leave, you're all alone. Oh, things happen. No, in an apartment, we're here. There are people around you all the time. You feel secure and safe. And that's the best thing. It's the best. Having never lived in an apartment, this has been terrific. I love it. Thank you.
I think some folks, thank you, Fran. I think some folks are very concerned about living in an apartment that haven't lived in an apartment from my perspective, because they're afraid that they're going to be disturbed by noise or vice versa, that they would be. Folks move in with pianos, with string quartets. I say we're built out of stone and steel. The only, I say don't go near the door. That's a fire door. That's a little less sound protected, but floor to floor, wall to wall. It's a very sound, solid building if folks are concerned about that. And Joan, you were going to add something?
Yes. The other night, I heard something drop and I had no idea what it was. It wasn't a crash. It was just a clicking, but I knew something fell in my apartment. I went to the closet first. I figured, oh, either a shoe fell off the rack, something simple like that. The floor was clean. I went into the bathroom. There was nothing. I searched all over. I could not find it. And I am the kind of person that doesn't get upset. So I said, okay, forget it. And I went to sleep. The next day, when I got up to go into the kitchen, I saw that there was a piece of black plastic on my dining room table. Now I know that had never been there before because we had eaten there the night before. So I looked around and sure enough, there were a couple of pieces of black plastic on chairs. And I thought, I can't imagine what this is. I don't have anything black in my house. So I searched and finally found that the interior of one of my ceiling lights had black plastic in it, which I never even knew. So I called the handyman and he came right up and he looked at it and he said, well, you have 3 lights. 2 of them don't have black plastic in, one still has it. The other one will probably fall someday too. So soon I'm going to go and buy a new light fixture for myself. But I have to tell you, in the 6 years I've been here, that's the first time I heard a sound. So I knew it wasn't from above and it wasn't from either side of me. It was in my own apartment.
I have an interesting one here. Sorry. Given the fact that people are people, undoubtedly you or a fellow resident has experienced or heard about a very unruly, impolite, rude or crude, terribly inconsiderate, or completely out of place behavior on the part of another resident or apartment neighbor. Now, I haven't really heard too much of that, but in any event, what, if anything, had been done to resolve and correct that unfortunate incident, and what protocol mechanism is now in place to, on an ongoing basis, continuously address these unacceptable occurrences as they may arise? That's a good one, huh? Rhoda?
Well, before we moved here, my husband and I said, you know, there'll be some 300 people living in this place. I think we'll manage to meet a few people we really like and live. Well, after we moved here, we found there were maybe just a few people that we wouldn't want to be friendly with. And we have mechanisms in place here to have some staff members who are adept and able to work with anyone who has problems. And they are usually resolved.
Thank you, Rhoda. Another good question. I think we've spoken about it a little bit, but it's a question that's being posed, so I will share. Is there an internal resident executive council? Yes, resident council.
Yes.
Similar committee analogs to a board of directors, which we've spoke about that serves as a representative leadership body for all the residents in interacting with the Amsterdam management and administration. I just want to share before one of you share, I don't know of any other community that has such resident involvement. And I think Rhoda and Jim, and really everyone here that's here with would agree. So anything additionally we can share with that, to these folks with that question about resident involvement. We have the resident council, we have a finance committee, we have representation on the board of directors. Anything else you folks can share?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ellen, yes.
I'm on the Residents' Council, and we have 12 people on the Residents' Council that are very active. It's a very active council, and we meet about once a week, either by Zoom or not, and we try to share our interests and our achievements with the residents. There is going to be, for example, we have a magazine or a newspaper that it's called The Overlook. And The Overlook goes into everyone's cubby. And in that, we share many of these concerns. And we try to answer the questions of the residents. One thing that wasn't mentioned before, by the way, it's totally out of context. We have a wonderful cleaning service that comes once a week.
Thank you, Ellen.
And they're marvelous. I mean, they really do a thorough job, and it's very good. But going back to the Residents' Council, we're very strong, and we try to do our very best. It's the one thing I'm most proud of. Being, we have to be voted in. We are a group of people that have accountants and lawyers, and we have all different kinds of people. But I think we're pretty wonderful. So that's that.
And Rhoda?
Yes, in addition to having 12 members of the council, we have, the council has oversight over more than 20 different committees. And they range from finance and budget to hanging pictures on the walls of your, not of your apartment, but of the halls outside your apartment. So that when you walk through these halls, it's like going to an art gallery. And incidentally, we call that committee the Hanging Committee.
The art committee, the hanging committee. So if someone's moving in and they can't fit their items in their apartment, or you can either donate or lend to the Amsterdam Art Committee. Jim, if I can ask you for one question here. Thank you for staying with us the whole time here. From Barbara, she's wondering which DOH, New York State DOH regulations are we governed by? And also, I guess, just what we're governed by: Department of Finance, Department of Health, your involvement in New York State on the advisory board, maybe a little bit about that.
Sure. By the way, I had no intention of staying on anywhere long, but I have been so fascinated by our current residents' presentations and these questions, I have not been able to leave. So
Thank you.
thank you for this diversion for the last hour. One of the impediments for other people to develop life plan communities like the Harborside is the intense regulations that are involved with the oversight of the operations. All of the other 12 CCRC life plan communities in New York State are all not-for-profit. This is not something that appeals to for-profit developers who are looking to make money. The regulations are so intense and so many reserves are required. It discourages private development. Not-for-profits are in this for a different purpose. Our purpose is mission and not to pull money off the balance sheet. But to answer your question specifically, there are 3 major state agencies that are involved with the oversight of the Harborside. One is the Department of Health. One is the Department of Financial Services, which is the insurance division of New York State, because we are an insurance product in so many ways. And of course, the Attorney General's office, who's interested in the consumer's rights. I sit on the state CCRC's council. That's a governor's appointment. That's the overseeing body of all of the CCRCs in the state of New York. And I can tell you the regulations are intense, sometimes a little bit too intense, but they're all there to make sure that not only do you get wonderful services and quality of life, but that your assets are protected as well, because this is an insurance product. And they want to make sure that the future obligations of the community, which get more expensive as you move into the health center, that we continue to be able to make those. So it's very regulated. And to answer your question, Department of Health, Department of Financial Services, and the Attorney General's office all have a stake in the oversight of the Amsterdam and Harborside.
Thank you so much, Jim. We have one more question. I think we have one more minute. To Mr. Davis, to Jim. We're not allowed to call him Mr. Davis. Everyone calls him Jim. Has the reputation of the Department of Health been diminished because of the funneling of folks to nursing homes during COVID-19?
This is kind of a general question. The way I answer this, because we run a large nursing home in New York, on the Upper West Side, which was more a victim of all of the COVID-19. I believe there's a number of factors that contributed to COVID-19 spreading rapidly in nursing homes. Certainly one of them was the Department of Health's insistence that nursing homes back in February, March, take COVID-19 patients. And that was at a time when we didn't have the PPE, we didn't have the masks and the gowns and all of the equipment that we needed to protect the staff and the residents. We didn't have testing capability. Most of us have international workforces who travel around the world. We have frequent 24-hour visitation. And then you're dealing in nursing homes with an older population with comorbidities in a congregate setting. So you add all of that up, it became a problem for nursing homes. I would not attribute the Department of Health's decision to admit COVID-19 patients exclusively to the problem. I would say it's a small part of it, but certainly now we're past all of that. We now have, both here in New York and at the Harborside's Tuttle Center, adequate PPE. We have testing capability. We know much better now how to handle this kind of situation if it should come back again in terms of how we cohort patients and how we treat them. So even if a surge returns in the fall, and we're thinking less now that that will happen, we are in a much, much better position, not at the Harborside, but universally to be able to deal with it if it occurs once again.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Oh, everyone is saying, thanks everyone. Getting some nice messages here. We have folks, the attendees thanking the panelists, thanking the residents for all of your insight, and we thank you as well. Please be in touch with us, come visit. We've been COVID-free here at the Amsterdam, the Harborside as Jim calls it. We've been COVID-free here since I believe June 5th. So we're very safe. We're safer than visiting the doctor's office. Everyone here is still tested weekly. We do take precautions just like anywhere else that you should be safely going out to. Come visit, come see all that we have to offer. We do have some availability in apartments right now. Shannon is here. I'm here. We're here almost every day of the week, and we can be here any day of the week for you, to meet with your family, and to go over our offering. And we can certainly figure out how to meet with residents as well. You know, if any of the gals here by phone, if you want to reach out to them, I'm sure they'd make themselves available if there's anything additionally you wanted to ask. And we'll be in touch with you. Shannon, Jen, and I, Ryan, will be in touch with you following up from today. Jim, thank you for being here, and enjoy your day, everyone. Jim will be doing probably like a Life Plan 101, which will be an educational seminar in October, and we'll be in touch with you when that will be. Thank you again for being with us today. We appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.